chicas. Welcome to a new episode of Chica We Got This podcast. This is your host, Maria Elisa. You can call me Mari because we're friends now. But
Hey.
I want to welcome you to a new episode con mi chica Cristal. Girly, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you, Madi. Thank you for having me. I am doing well. Doing well.
Yay! I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. To remind the people out there, this is a podcast that I opened up for Latinas to join me, tell me their story, their chisme, their business, so we can know more about them, become friends, and just bring our Latinas together because community is everything. And remember to be a part of the community that I'm forming by following my Instagram at Chico We Got This _pod. So, Cristal, like, te digo, estoy anonadada con lo que ha pasado. I'm very shook with what's happened. It's been so many people, and so I want to make sure that your story is heard, that we know more about you. So can you tell me a little more about who is Cristal? What is she like? What does she do? You know, tell us about you.
So, hi, everybody out there in podcast world. My name is Crystal, like she was saying. I am, oh gosh, there's a lot of facets to me. Well, first and foremost, I am let's go ahead and tap into my culture background. So I am third generation Mexican American, born and raised in Texas. Um, my first language was English. My parents were very, very adamant about teaching me English first. Their first language was English. So you can kind of understand that, you know, where I come from, yes, I can speak Spanglish like the best of them, but like what Cardi B says, you know, my Spanish is muy ratata, okay? So
That is
so
hilarious.
so a lot of it pretty much stems from my background, right? So um that's me in a nutshell when it comes to my culture, but I'm like super very proud of where and who I am and where I come from and what my people have done in the past. It's gotten to the point where I was like, why don't I look like the stereotypical Mexican, right? Like I'm not short, I'm not dark skinned. I'm, you know, like what is it about me? So it kind of like I delved into whenever like the DNA ancestry thing was like big.
Yeah.
So I actually looked at that and shocker, I'm like 64% Native American. Um, I'm like I have more Irish blood in me than I do Spanish blood in me, which was like, oh, okay, like this makes sense now, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's pretty much me culturally. But I make sure that I like when I saw this Latina trend on TikTok, I was like, oh, this is important, you know, let me go ahead
Yeah.
and hop on this. So it was important for me because I was like, you know, I'm very much into like proud of my culture, proud of where, you know, where I come from, like I said, but I wanted to connect with other Latinas because there's representation matters. And I feel like more than anything, um, I'm in my 40s. And so it was important for me. And I was like, oh, let me just see if I can make some connections out there.
Yeah.
Let's just see what happens, you
Yeah.
know. And then I started at like 310 followers. And then within a 24-hour period, I got my 1,000.
That's so exciting.
It was insane.
Yeah, right? It's the support. And then you just feel like it feels like a hug. It feels like a estoy aquí, I'm here, like hi, I want to know you, I care. And like it just feels it hits different. It hits
It
different.
it does, man. As the kids say, it slaps. So
Oh my God.
uh I know, right? So yeah, no, like I met some really cool people thus far, and it's like, you know, you follow me, I follow you back, and it's like I'm
Mhm.
trying really hard to connect with some people, and it's really hard. It's difficult, and I'm like, am I viral? Like, am I an influencer? Like, what's happening?
Should
No,
I be getting paid to talk?
I know. I know it's so funny because it's like I try really hard to like respond to all the comments and things like that. And I'm not saying I have thousands of followers that comment on my content, which I
Yeah.
think my content is like pretty mediocre. Um, I think I'm funny, but my kids
I
might
think
think
you're
otherwise.
funny. They
My
are.
kids,
They
Yeah,
don't
my
know.
kids are like, "Nah, mom, you're not funny at all. Of course they're
I'm
gonna,
dead.
they're preteen and teenagers. They're gonna be like, Mom, you're lame."
Oh, just your existence is irritating and
I
and
know,
gross. Like,
exactly, exactly. So, which is fine. I don't, it's not that big of a deal. But
yeah.
my content out there is pretty mediocre. So it's like whenever somebody comments on it, I'll be sure to comment back, either if it's an emoji or something, or like I acknowledge it and I like it and stuff. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
important too, because a lot of times people get lost in this social media world and they forget like, hey, we're people too,
Yeah.
so it's really hard. I think it's harder for the younger generation to keep up too, because it's like I attention span is everything. Attention
Yes.
span is everything. So
Yes. Yes, exactly. It takes a lot to grab attention and keep it and make that attention turn into action. But we're trying out here. We're trying, doing our best. I do want to ask you, if you don't mind sharing, what part of Texas are you? Because there's so many Houston girls that I need to go see. Like, I need to travel to Texas because there's so many of y'all out there. Are you close to Houston?
I am actually. So I was born in Houston, but we actually settled this little bitty town called Rosenberg, which is southeastern part of, no, southwestern part of Houston. See, yeah, it's like it's on, like, if you talk to any of the Houstonians out there, it's right off of I-59, right? So they're gonna be like, "Oh, I know where that is." Or like if you're going to I-59 south, like you're heading toward Victoria, you will bypass Rosenberg for sure. So it's pretty cool because it's actually, when I grew up there, it was very like fields and nothing was being blown up. And then slowly but surely, Houston is actually trickling down to my little part of town. So like it's blown up last time I was
Yeah.
there. And so many things have, like, we have a Target, we have all these things now. And I'm like, what? Like, why couldn't we have this back when I was, a teenager? So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, I'm very glad that, a little more people are coming, but at the same time, it's like, slow down, slow down,
Yeah.
keep it small.
I mean,
But
they build on a postage stamp down there. So it's like, little postage stamp land, let's go ahead and put another thing up, let's build
yeah.
another development. Let's put more houses. Let's do, there's like tons of high schools now, which
Oh,
is insane,
wow.
which makes sense because there's more people that live there. So
Yeah.
kids obviously need a place to go to school. Back when I was there, there was only two high schools. And the high school that I went to, my parents went to.
Yeah. Dang.
I know. I know.
I'm dead. Well, girly, I want to know more about we already know your present. So tell me a little more about your past. What was it like growing up in your house? What was your family like? What was your experience?
So growing up, I'm the eldest of three, and I'm the only girl. So naturally, I was like the second mom, right?
Yep.
And then even further than that, I was the eldest grandchild on my dad's side. So I had 14, I have 14 other little cousins, right? I
Oh,
think I have a
wow.
little bit more. I think I have like 15 cousins or whatever. But it's funny because it's like we were all within the same town. We were all like down the street from one another. So it was like we all grew up together like siblings,
Yeah.
basically. My tias and my tios were basically, they would come in unannounced all the time. And it'd be
I
like, and it would be one of those things where we were all one big, huge, 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 very close, sometimes annoying,
Annoyingly
mostly
close family.
annoying, annoyingly close family. But no, like growing up, I mean, my parents, they were very hard workers. They would work. I think my dad always held down two jobs. My mom, for the most part, she was a stay-at-home mom, but then she, went back into the workforce and she held two jobs too. So, I mean, they were very hardworking people. They gave us any and everything that we could ever want within their means.
Hmm.
Um, my brothers and I we never went hungry. My mom, she was always in the kitchen making us something to eat. So we were always fed,
Yes.
maybe a little too good.
Ah.
Uh, but no, like, we grew up, I remember we grew up in a really, for the most part, there were obviously bad days, but for the most part, I consider there were some good days there too. So, um, being the only girl, and I can speak for myself. I can't really like it's more of a culture thing, but girls, we were very strict. They were very strict with me.
Yeah.
Couldn't really do much. Couldn't go out. Couldn't do anything, right? Because they're like,
Yeah.
no, you never know. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
my brothers could get away with murder. They could do whatever they want. They could go to parties. They could, hang out, whatever the case may be. For me, it was like, no, you'll be
Yeah.
home by 9. I'm like, dang, I just want to go to a quinceañera. Okay, you'll be home by 10. I'm like, well, dang. I'm like, all right, well.
Dang.
So that happened a lot, and it was a lot of pressure on me to like be the perfect one because you will graduate high school, you will go to college, you will become a doctor, you will, they wanted all of that for me, right? And then what did I do? I rebelled and I joined the Navy as soon as I graduated high school.
It's so funny you say that because that's like the one thing that puts a lot of people like, straight and like kind of helps them find structure. Um,
Yeah,
what was that
yeah.
like? What was that?
So being in the Navy, my dad was like super nervous about me being in the Navy because
Yeah.
his one go-to thought was like, oh my God, my baby girl, she's gonna be like sexually assaulted. You know what I mean? And I was like, whoa, chill.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, like with any and everything, you got to be
Hmm.
careful, right?
Hmm.
But in my mind, I was like, if I were to stay here and not go anywhere, because there's a lot of people that I graduated high school with that have never left, right? They stayed there. And they may be happy with their lives, but I don't think I would have been content with that because I know for a fact that one, I would have had to, my parents couldn't afford to send me to college, right? So I'd have to work through college, put myself through college. Probably wouldn't have worked out. Probably would have like dropped out of college. I probably would have gotten pregnant. There's so many what ifs that could have went
Yeah.
down, but I know for a fact the reason why, number one reason why I did join the Navy is to pay for college because I knew I would be able to like afford it, right? Because the
Hmm.
government would pay for it. So that was my number one goal, honestly. And then the perks were I was able to visit other countries. I was able to like experience different foods, meet other people. Like where
Hmm.
I grew up, I never had Puerto Rican friends. I never had Dominican friends. I never had Filipino friends. I never had like, you know what I mean? It was very
Yeah.
like sectioned off. Like you had Mexicans, you had black people, you had white people. That was it, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have mixed culture. So whenever it was a culture shock, joining the Navy, and it actually like opened my eyes to meeting other people, meeting other cultures within the Latin community. Um, which was pretty funny because like I know a lot of like my Dominican friends and my Puerto Rican friends, they would always rag on each other all the time. And it was funny because it's like a lot of the Mexicans would rag on like we would rag on
Yeah.
all each other like all the time. So it was just fun. It was all in good fun. But it was, at the end of the day, I got to meet a lot of people and make a lot of great friends. To this day, still. I mean,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
out of the Navy in 2006, and to this day I still like we're best friends still, which is
Yeah.
really 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 cool.
That's awesome. That's really good. My brother joined the Navy as well. Um, I don't know. He told me he traveled a lot, and I love that. I love that. But I do want to go back and go to like who you were before the Navy. Who did Crystal want to be? Like, what did you want to do? Like,
Honestly, what's funny is like I talked about this on one of my lives actually. Like growing up in high school, I honestly wanted to be a radio DJ.
that's so cool.
Like I wanted to go into radio. I really did. Like I thought that would have been the cool thing to do. Like I was actually going to like touring campus of University of Houston and I was looking at the communications degree, journalism degree and what I needed to do that. And then found out real quickly it's not what you know, it's who you know in the radio industry. So it's like
Mm,
that was a huge deterrent for me and I was like, well, I don't know anybody. I'm just like some high school kid. Who do I
yeah.
know? So I was like, let me not do that. So then it was like, okay, well, what else am I gonna do? And just like any kid, like we don't know what we want to do when we grow up. We're just kind of like, you know, going along with the flow and just trying to figure
Yeah.
out what we want to do. So that's where I was like, okay, well then what if I want to go into the legal aspect? What if I want to like do that? And then I was like, well, I don't want to be a lawyer because I'm like I looked at the schooling behind it and I was like, oh, man,
It's
can't
a
be cool.
no.
I was like, nah. And then of course my dad was like, you're gonna be a doctor. And then I was like, I did pretty decent in science, but I was
Mhm.
terrible at math. And I was like, I kind of need to know that,
Yeah, maybe
So I'm like,
not.
so that's a no. So then I
Yep.
looked at because I looked at the schooling at that. I was like, man, I'm gonna be in school forever. I was like, nah.
Right?
So I was like, mm. So it just got to the point where I was like, all right, well, let me just, go into the Navy and see what happens. But, slowly but surely, I was just like, okay, well, I would, because in the Navy, I was in administration, so I was like basically a secretary. So
Okay.
I did a bunch of paperwork and a bunch of like correspondence and things like that. I was like on the prissy side of the Navy.
Yeah.
I wasn't hardcore getting
Okay.
dirty. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
No. We had a saying in the Navy, you choose your rate, which is your job. You choose your
Mm-hmm.
fate, you know. So
Oh.
I was you choose your rate, you choose your fate. And so like I was an admin and I was my uniform was always clean, my boots were always shined. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just
Mm-hmm.
like I could just go over there and just like show
I
up
like
and
this.
type on my computer and I'm good to go.
Yep.
So
Yep.
but but no, I mean, I think a lot of, I think trying to figure out who I was from high school to the Navy, like in that in between time, that's the time where I was like, I don't know what I want to be. I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to do something. I just didn't know what it was. So fast
Yeah.
forward, I met the love of my life while I was in the Navy. We got married like right after I got out. And then it was to the point where I was like, okay, I will follow him. So I did. I followed him. We went to Chicago. We were stationed there for 3 years. We had our first daughter. And then from there, we got stationed to Japan. We were there for 4 years. We had our second daughter. And then when we came back to the States, it was like, okay, I need to do something with my life. It's my turn. It really is
Yeah.
my turn. Like, I need to do something. So I decided to go into healthcare. So I was 35 years old when I went to college. So those people out there saying like, "Oh, I need to know what I need to be when I grow up when I'm 18." No, you got a while.
Yep.
You got a while.
It's never too late.
Exactly. So if this old bird can go back to college and get a college degree, anybody can. Anybody can.
Yes, be that example though. I'm very happy that you made that decision to go back. Like a lot of people are still paralyzed by their fear and you said, "Heck nah. It's my turn." So,
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you did that. How was that experience
Thanks.
for you?
Oh my gosh. So being the older generation going back to school, these kids are straight out of high school and you're going to college with these kids, right? And of course,
Mhm.
their brains are a lot fresher. They can retain a lot more information than you can. And it took me a long time because my brain was not built that way. Having had two kids, having that pregnancy brain, what we call it as moms, like you forget a lot. You have short-term memory loss like all the time.
Hmm.
So it took me a minute and I had to study. I had to study really, really hard. And my kids being young, and it was a huge lesson for them because they were like, "Oh, I just want to play with mommy. I just want to hang out with mommy." And it's like, mommy has to study. So
Yeah.
I was very fortunate, very, very lucky that I have a huge support system. My husband's like huge supporter. So he took the kids and he made sure that he, took care of the house and he took care of me and made sure that, I had enough, coffee, made sure that I had enough food. He still is amazing.
Yeah.
But definitely back then, if you don't have a strong support system, it's kind of like it's a struggle. But we kind of also teased and we're like, all right, well, if you let mommy study and she graduates on time and she passes her boards, we'll take you to Disney World. And they're like, bet. so so they knew that like as a graduation present, we were going to take them to Disney World.
How
Yeah.
was it?
They loved it. Are you kidding me? They were 8 at the time, 8 and I want to say 5. So
Mhm.
old enough to understand what's going on, old enough to like be in the moment.
Yeah.
Girl, when we saw Elsa and Anna, they were like in love. Are you kidding me? So
Yeah.
we met all we I mean we did it good. We did it well. We met all the princesses. We stayed at a resort where, they had a huge pool and the kids loved the pool and we did it good. We did it. We had a good time. And now that they're older, teenager and preteen,
Mm-hmm.
we all want to go back because they're like, oh, I want to go back. So we're gonna try to go back again. But we had all of us had a really good time. It was amazing.
Oh,
I think I
yay.
cried when I saw Mickey Mouse, actually. Yeah,
You did
I did.
not.
Girl, I was like, all with the owl. I was like, oh my God.
I
Oh
don't
my
think you
God, it's Mickey.
understand how much I worked to come see you.
I was like, oh my God, it's Mickey Mouse. Oh my God. And I think he gave me a big hug. And I
Yeah.
think I told him, I was like, Mickey, I want to cry. Oh my God. I'm like over here
Yeah.
like a mom and stuff. And I'm just like crying because, it's Mickey Mouse, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
met Tinkerbell and everything too. It was super cool. Like it was mad cool. Like we were like I was like, you know what? We're gonna get on the list. And I'm out there and I'm like, we're reserving times for Tinkerbell and Mickey Mouse
Hmm.
and Ariel and we're doing all these things. We're seeing everybody. So
Yes.
I think it was more for me than the kids, but it's fine. It worked out.
Honestly,
It
that
worked out.
whole like industry is on it. It's a little more for the adults that saw it growing up and understand the changes that have gone through, Disney and everything.
100%.
Yeah, I want to go
100%.
back. I want to go back. I want
Yeah.
to meet I want to meet Moana more than anyone because I feel like that was the first person that I felt looked like me. I was like, look at
Yes.
her big curly hair. I was like, no way. She has curly hair. She's like brown and she's
Yes.
extroverted and very like, that energy of like go getter instead of like, oh, I'm waiting for my prince, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's my girl.
Yeah, we met Merida. Merida was the first princess that we saw brave as a family, and it was a relationship between mother and daughter. That was the first movie that I was just like, ah! Like I was crying like
Yeah.
crazy because I was like hugging my babies even more.
Yeah.
And I loved her spirit. I loved her spirit. Like she's like, I don't need a man to do anything for me. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, that's what I'm talking about. And so when we waited in line to see, I was like, we're seeing Merida. I don't care. So we waited and waited and waited, and we finally saw Merida. And I was just like, I think I boo-hooed when I saw her too. And I was just like, oh my God. You know what I mean? So like the kids were like all about it too, because she had really big curly red hair and
Yeah.
it was just like different. And so I'm in love with her. I
Right.
just love her whole like persona.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
What she
then
stands for.
absolutely, absolutely. So definitely, yeah, if we ever go back, I would love to see Moana too. It would be really cool.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes. I'm
it'd
so
be super
glad
cool.
that that happened for you though. I do want to
Yeah.
dive into kind of like that you worked really hard for that. You worked really hard and we're very proud of all you had to sacrifice, all those nights, all those fun times with your kids. We're very proud that you got through that and here you are doing it in healthcare, which it takes a certain spirit to push
Yes.
through in healthcare.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
So for our
Yeah.
girlies that are in healthcare, our Latinas that are in healthcare, tell us your experience and maybe a piece of advice from what you've been through.
Um, so I I started like I graduated respiratory school, so I'm a respiratory therapist. A lot of times we get confused with nurses because we
Okay.
all work side by side with each other. The only difference is that they are the ones who push medications and IVs, and they deal with like that kind of medication when it comes to they're the first line of defense really when it
Okay.
comes to healthcare when you're in a hospital, right? When it comes to us, we're more specialized, so we're dealing with lungs and we're dealing with the heart, and we kind of like we joke and we deal above the belt. The nurses deal below the belt kind of thing, right?
And
So that's our expertise. And a
yeah.
lot of times too, we handle a lot of snot.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like that.
No.
A lot of my nurse friends are like, "Ugh." They're like, I would rather change diapers all day long and deal with that mess than have to suck boogers out or have to deal with like sputum or anything like that. And me personally, like, I'm good with sputum. I'm good with that. So there's a little, difference there between what we do and what they do, right?
Right?
If
That's
you have
interesting.
ever, yeah, if you've ever had somebody that has asthma, COPD, any kind of like pulmonary issues, you more than likely have dealt with a respiratory therapist at one point in your life.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. That's what I do. In my field, there aren't that many. Latinas at all.
No.
And where I live, actually, there aren't that many Latinas, period. But in the field where I'm at, especially, we are far and few in between. When I meet another respiratory therapist that is of Hispanic or Latina descent, it's usually on TikTok or it's usually on
Oh,
Instagram. And I see them and I'm like immediately following because I'm like, we have to stick together, you know. And anytime I see an RT period, immediately following because a lot of times it's a nurse culture.
yeah.
I love my nurses, don't get me wrong. I love my nurses. They do their thing. I could never be them. I could never
Mm-hmm.
be them. This is why I'm an RT. But every time that I see an RT out in the wild, I'm like, hey, we're friends now, you know?
Yes.
Because we don't get the recognition that nurses do. It's just plain and simple because you don't hear about us.
Yeah.
But when COVID hit, that's when
Oh, now we're
we were
everything.
front. Now we were front
Dang.
and center because it was a
Yeah.
respiratory illness or it was, you know, and there's like talk of like, well, is it really a respiratory illness or is it a droplet illness or is it this or is it
Mm-hmm.
that, whatever the case may be. Um, I saw my fair share of people in the hospital with COVID and I caught it once. It's not fun. Thankfully, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, it wasn't bad on my end,
Mm-hmm.
for me or any of my family members when we did get it. But when I saw the people in the hospital, it was enough to give me PTSD for real. And I've seen my fair share of death, and it was a very January of 2021 was the hardest month of my career for sure. I was going into work, body bags were coming out. um, in the ICU, people were dying left and right, and the morgues were overfilled. So we had to wait for the morgue to make room so that we could put the departed that just died into the morgue. And as soon as a bed was empty, we knew somebody else was going to get it. So it was like get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out. So like there was a point in time where you almost felt numb to death.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is insane. And I'm just like, I'm emotionally drained. And yeah, so I left the hospital realm for something a little bit more laid back, a little bit more lax. So now I'm in a nursing home. So all those people who had COVID, let's say that were the welcome out, as we say, like in the hospital, that like there's only so X amount of days that you can stay in the hospital. So now you're going to a long-term care facility slash rehab slash nursing home. And that's where I'm at now. So
Okay.
those people who had like COVID that ended up having to get like we call it a tracheostomy, which is like basically a tube in the middle of their neck.
Mm-hmm.
Now we maintain them at this facility now. So
Wow.
it's very low key, less stress, very slow paced, you know, and it's more of my jam
Mm-hmm.
because working in acute care, which meaning like it's rapid traumas, all these things that happen at any given moment, it wears on you. And I, you know, tip my hat to those people that are still there.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it anymore. Because, yeah, it does take a specific person to maintain it. But when you get burnt out to a situation where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this anymore. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you just get in a very depressive state at all
Yeah.
times. So I
Well,
needed to do something that's better, that was better for me, better for my mental health. So I chose the route that I did. A lot of my friends are still struggling with what happened in COVID when it was really, really bad. But like a lot of us in healthcare, we kind of like suppress it and we move on.
well,
We
I
don't
tip
talk
my
about
hat
it a
to
lot.
you, girl. I tip my hat. You
Thank
did
you, friend.
amazing, and I'm happy that you came out victorious, even though,
Yeah.
some of that kind of sticks with you.
Hmm.
You made it out to the other side, and look at you now, inspiring other Latinas and taking up that good ass space and
Thank you.
doing that
Thank you.
content, which I'm so happy that you're doing. And because of all this hard work that you're putting in, and I know other people kind of have their struggles as well. I want to know a piece of advice that you can give us to kind of keep pushing through no matter what's going on. What helps you process everything and what we can carry out of this episode?
Um, I feel like staying humble is a
Mm-hmm.
huge part of just life in general, whether you're pursuing your career, whatever it is that you are pursuing, whether it's pursuing more content out there in TikTok world, just understand that all of this can be gone in a second and just stay humble and be grateful to those who are supporting you because they could find somebody else that they like in a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having that humble pie will do you well in life and in anything that you do. Because there's one thing that if you're gonna come out here and you're gonna be like all chocante and you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm it. Sis, take a seat. Thea Crystal telling you, you ain't all that, okay? There's
Mm-hmm.
tons of others out there that are doing the same thing that you're doing, but you have to stay authentic to yourself too. That's another piece of advice. Stay authentic to who you are. Um, I know there's a lot of like um what is it called? Like copy not copy syndrome. What is it? It's just like you think that you're doing something else that well somebody else is already doing that, so why am I gonna do that?
Yeah.
Well, they're not you and you're not them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you may be doing the makeup thing and you may be on here doing, makeup tutorials or whatever. And there's tons of girls that are doing makeup tutorials, but they're not you.
Yeah.
Or they're out here doing podcasts, but they're not you. And they're doing
Mm-hmm.
comedy, but they're not you, right? So just be humble and stay authentic. And I'm pretty sure you will definitely go far. And those that want to be with you because they want you. They like you, what you're doing. And they'll stick
Mm-hmm.
around because they see what you're doing. They're like, you know what? I like what Monty's doing. I like her attitude. I like her vibe. She's always smiling. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see, right? Versus somebody who's tearing somebody down all the time or being negative all the time or all that stuff. That's not what we're here for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely stay humble and stay authentic. And I think for now that should be good.
Yes, like yes. It's already
But
hard to tackle those things and like,
it is, and it's a
you know,
struggle.
mm-hmm.
It's a
Exactly.
struggle. But
But
I mean,
we're trying.
hey,
We're
yeah,
trying, but we got
take it day
this,
by
right?
day. We got, that's right, Chica, we
Yes,
got this.
yes,
Full
we
circle.
got this. Exactly. It all comes back to the fact that it is in within our control
Right.
to make our dreams happen. And we are stronger than we think, but we need to stay, as you say, authentic and humble because when you do that, blessings will come. Just leave
Exactly.
space and love the space that you're in, which is you. So let
Yeah.
me tell you, I'm blessed to have you here. I had an amazing time. And as we wrap this up, um, um, tell me what can we expect of you with all the content that you're putting out here?
Um, Honestly, I'm so goofy and so random. Those that stop by my TikTok page or if I'm on your For You page, hit me up, hit a little you know, like or something,
What's the
let me
handle
know.
so we know?
Let me know. Um, it's kind of hard for me to actually because I don't really it's Crystal underscore Geo. And I think it's like
Okay,
triple underscore or double underscore. I couldn't tell you. I don't even remember.
don't you worry,
But
I'll
I know
find
it's
you.
like yeah, so it's Crystal underscore underscore maybe Geo
Mm-hmm.
Geeo. Somebody
Okay.
asked me, they're like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Well, I didn't want to give them my last name, obviously, because
Yeah.
I was like, you know." But
Yeah.
I just played it off like Geo, like as in crystal, like as in the rock, as in geometric form. And they're like, "Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's so lame. That's so goofy." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of who I am."
And that's kind of none of your business either.
I mean, I don't take myself seriously. I really don't. The content that I post on TikTok, it's funny because it's like I'll come off as it's just strictly entertainment. So I don't,
Mm-hmm.
people think that I'm single. People think that I'm like upset. People think that I'm sad. People think that all these things about me, but at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, it's just purely for entertainment. Now, if you get on there and you're just like taking it for more than what it is, then that's on you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I try not to take myself seriously at all. And it's just basically like a creative outlet for me just to make fun of myself or just to kind of get on there and act a fool sometimes. So But yeah, the content that you see out there will definitely, most definitely, I'll probably either be in my kitchen
Hmm.
because that's what I usually do. I'm in my kitchen with a glass of wine, or I'm at work,
Girl, me
which
too.
I which I really shouldn't be. But I've learned to like have a green screen behind me because that way
Yeah.
nothing, gets shown or anything like that. So
And the work is getting done. You know how to
yeah,
do your stuff. So when you
yeah.
hop on there, it's because you can and you know how to handle it.
Yeah, it's not that I'm neglecting anybody. It's I have downtime and
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of fun here and there, whatever. But yeah, I mean it's a little bit of everything like lip syncing some audio sounds that I find funny or I find, pertinent to how I'm feeling for the time.
Yeah.
Or I'll get up on there and I'll just like duet somebody, or I'll get up there and I'll just like sometimes I'll even sing because I feel like I don't know. In my head, I feel like I'm like Selena, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But I'll have like little kitchen karaoke, things, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's all random and it's all good and it's all fun.
It's all fun,
So,
exactly. I love that you're doing
yeah,
it. Keep doing it. And let me tell you, it was a pleasure to have you here. I
it
am
was a pleasure
blessed.
being here.
Yes, I hope you enjoyed it.
I did, and this is
Yay.
how usually it is in my lives too. Like we're just random talking about stuff, and it's just like as if we're doing a
Literally.
FaceTime. Yeah, and just getting to know one another
Literally,
and
that's
just
what I wanted it
yeah.
to be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a
So,
FaceTime. It really is. And the vibe here is like super chill. So I'm excited
yeah.
about this. It was not like at first I was like, man, is she gonna like interview me like with extra questions? And I was,
Like
but
like as
no,
a
it's just
job
like,
interview.
yeah, I was like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna be into, but hey, it's a podcast. Yeah,
Yes,
but it's pretty cool.
exactly.
It
Yes,
was really cool.
it's a podcast for Latinas by Latinas, and because of you being a Latina and joining me made it happen. So thank you so much for being here, Crystal. I really hope that we can book some time and do it again because I had fun.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah, me too. Let's do it.
yes,
I'm
awesome.
down.
Well, thank you once again for being here, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Make sure to share this with your friends and chicas out here listening. Just know you need to follow her and support our Latinas because what is the trend for? So make sure to
Muchísimas
do
gracias.
that.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, girl, and I'll catch you next time.
See ya.